In this video, let's finally start organizing our navigation links. In this video, we'll add a list within our navigation menu panel here to organize these links. Also within the right panel, we'll also use a material list to group these settings by placing each setting within its own list item. As usual, let's take a look at the Angular material documentation to see how we can implement these lists in our application. And then components, and then scroll down until you see the list component, select that one. And then over here on the right, the overview content, you'll notice there's a whole list of different lists that we could use. Starting with a simple list, the mat-list, we'll be implementing that within the settings panel. Also, there's a navigation list using the mat-nav-list. We'll be implementing an example like this within the navigation menu. And then they also have an action list using the mat action list element. Then you'll also notice that there are attributes that we can add within a multi-line list. For example, we'll be using this mat list item title to set our title within the settings panel for each one of our list items. We'll be using this. But before we use any component, we need to bring in the module, and I'll open up the code example and go to the TS file, and we'll start off by adding in our mat list module into our TS file. I'll copy this. We'll add this to the pages TS file, and I'll add that import at the top, and then we'll add the mat list module to the imports array, and I'll add that towards the end here. And that's the only changes we need to make within the pages TS file. Moving on to the HTML. And then we'll start inside the first side nav. This is our main navigation, the left side panel. And for now, I'll comment out this UL element. And then at the top here, I'll add in that example off the documentation, the simple example. Save it so it formats it. This is the basic simple example, this mat list element. We want to add on to this, so we'll set this to be the mat-nav-list. And the reason we're setting it to that is because we'll have a bunch of anchor tags within this element here. In the example, you'll notice that they are using a mat list element, a mat list item element like this. For this example, we'll do something a little different. I'll just add in the anchor tag like this. And then I'll use the mat list item here as an attribute. Add that right at the beginning of the anchor tag. In later videos, we will be using the mat list item within this navigation list when we're adding in the Angular material icons. For now, since we only have one element, the anchor tag, we'll do it this way. We can now remove the rest of these elements here, and I'll add in the rest of our anchor tags. And now we have our contact us, user profile, data display, and the board mini. We have the rest of our links added. Now we could remove the UL tag. We don't need that anymore. And I'll clean it up a little bit. And that's the only changes we need to make within our main side nav, the navigation side nav. Moving on to the next side nav, our settings. Again, at the top here, I'll add in the snippet from the documentation. And then again, I'll save it so it formats it. So this will do something different. We'll use the mat list instead of the mat-nav list. And the reason for that is we don't have a bunch of navigation items within this list here. We'll also use the mat list item as an element. And we'll replace this item 1 here, this placeholder, with this entire section right here. I'll cut this out here. And then replace this item 1. I'll put this on a new line. And add in that section there. And then that goes for the item 2. I'll remove the last one here. We don't need that. And then I'll cut this section out here. Clean it up a little bit. And then replace the item 2 with that snippet. Again, I'll save it so it formats it. Then we wanted to do one more thing. We want to add in a attribute within this H4 tag here. And we'll add the mat-list item title attribute. And what this is doing is it's telling Angular Material that this is a primary label or title. Also, it'll apply some styles to this H4 tag. I'll make sure to add this within the H4 down here as well, the second one. And that's the only changes we need to make within our setting panel for the mat list. Let's view this in the browser. Our menu looks way better, and also when you hover on it, it has this hover effect. And then also within our settings, we now have a little bit of margin on the top and the left side now. Now, if we look closely here, you'll notice that the bottom of our radio inputs are being cut off. And with all Angular Material components, they each have a override mixin. So the list component has a override mixin. And in the next video, what we'll do is we'll use that mixin to set a height to these list items to give it some space. And we'll do that in the next video.